Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter, Minnesota. It is Monday, January 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We are now called to order. Would all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have all received a copy. Oh, we're going to do oath of office.
Yeah, if we
I
can.
almost jumped over that.
Now's the appropriate time to do the oath of office. Folks that were elected or re-elected this fall, this would be a time for you to be sworn in. There's information included in your packet. As I mentioned earlier, we have a process for this, and I do want to mention that after the swearing in, it's traditionally done that the mayor will call for a recess, and that gives everyone and families to take pictures and do that kind of thing. And so we have plenty of time to do that, so no one should feel in a hurry, and we'll help people get that organized if they need help. So if I could, Madam Mayor, we'll just start with that, if I could.
That sounds great.
Everyone who was re-elected or elected this last fall, if you could please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duty of a city council member for which you have been elected to the best of your judgment and ability? If so, answer, I do.
I do.
I do.
All right, let's give you a hand. All right.
All right. It is 7:02 and we will recess at this time.
So let's sit. Yeah, if you would sign.
7:02. Are you ready for us? All right, it is 7:09 p.m. and we are back in session. Moving on, we will go to the approval of the agenda. Everybody's received a copy of the agenda. Are there any revisions or corrections to the agenda as distributed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Next up, approval of the minutes. We've all received a copy of the December 11th minutes. Are there any revisions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed?
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. At this point in the meeting, we have time on our schedule for comments from visitors. We have first up time for visitors who'd like to address the council on agenda items, and then we have time for general visitor comments. So first, are there any members of the audience who'd like to address the council on any agenda item? All right. I know you know the rules, but for members of the audience, you have to introduce yourself, share your address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to address the council.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and your name, of course.
Yes, my name is Mark Plotz, P-L-O-T-Z, and I live at 1009 Weddergren Street, St. Peter, Minnesota. I am here tonight to talk about the Transportation Alternatives Grant application. I am so excited to see this on the agenda, and you'll be asked to vote on resolution, and I encourage you to approve this resolution. The project on Sunrise is going to close a big gap in our biking network and walking network. And as a parent, I can just think of the people who live along that street and whose kids attend North and have to walk on the shoulder or get driven, what is otherwise a walkable or bikeable distance. So this is super exciting to see the city and the county working on this. And while we're at it, let's lower the speed limit on that segment. The other project is also really exciting. That's the 3rd Street traffic calming project. With the other project, I can say it's about time. St. Peter deserves a destination street, just like Owatonna has with Cedar Avenue. Northfield has with Division Street, and closer to home, Mankato has with South Front Street in the city center neighborhood. Of the three, the real gem is Division Street, so if you need a field trip, go there and see how that street works. It is amazing to see the mix of users, how it's safe with bicyclists, walking, driving. They've got parklets. It is an amazing example of how a street can add value to the businesses and residences that are next to it. So go there, copy whatever they're doing, and replicate it here. So I really look forward to seeing the renderings of what's going to happen on 3rd Street, and I encourage a really robust public engagement process. Engage with the residents who live along there, the stakeholders, not just on that street, but that adjacent street. Do some focus groups and maybe even dive into doing some demonstration projects to test out some treatments, widening the sidewalk, creating shade and other pedestrian amenities. So I'm really excited to see this, and I urge you to vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Mark, yes.
Mark, I would just like to say thank you for your advocacy for this. I know this is a topic that's very passionate for you, and just citizen input is really what helps drive a lot of these projects forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Is there anyone else? Yes. Just a reminder to please give us your name and your address.
Matt Byers, 202 North 3rd Street. I hadn't planned on coming to provide any commentary until my wife sent me an Instagram post saying that this was being under consideration. I live on 3rd Street, and I really applaud the effort to remediate it a bit. My wife and my kids and I walk down 3rd Street all the time to downtown, and it feels like I'm walking through a de Chirico painting. Completely, the street's too wide, it's too windy, there's not enough shade, there's nothing to match, or to mark, I should say, the progress of time. And for many years I taught urban planning at the University of Minnesota, and Mr. Prafke was very kind to welcome my students down every year to the city to study not only 3rd Street and what could be done to improve the pedestrian component to that, but also 169. And so I would say, as much as I'm absolutely a fan of the efforts that have been put forth on 3rd Street, I know that there's a lot of difficulty with 169, especially with the fact that there's many stakeholders. It's an historic district, but also we have MnDOT, which is difficult to work with sometimes. But I would really encourage the council to seek opportunities to affect real change there. It's really, it's very difficult to shop on 169, and it's difficult, I think, for businesses to survive. And I think just from anecdotal evidence of talking with business owners along 169, it's a real problem, not only from pedestrians being able to enjoy walking downtown, but also dining downtown. And the gentleman prior to me spoke of the effort in Northfield. And my wife's uncle was instrumental in making that happen, and it was a lot of fun to talk to him about not only the challenges that he faced in developing that with the city, but also the benefits that it has in terms of creating a truly walkable community. And as a resident now for almost 10 years in St. Peter, but I'm going to be here for a very long time, I really do hope the City Council takes the walkability of our city very seriously. So thank you for your efforts. I would absolutely encourage you to vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other visitors who'd like to comment on an agenda item? By now you know name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Samuel Mendoza, and I live at 2005 Bunker Lane here in St. Peter. I would also like to reiterate the last two guests, what they had to say about the resolution, and moreover, just the idea of improvements along 3rd Street in general. Something else that I think is worth talking about is making these areas more walkable, not only for it to be safer, but also for it to be an economic benefit to our city. It's a well-researched topic that areas that are more walkable, which means the buildings come out to the streets, There are a variety of uses where people can come and go. People can live there. They can walk to work. They can walk to their school. They can walk to, where they need to shop. Will also make more money. I think the way that we've developed over the last 50 years has been a huge misallocation of land and resources, specifically in the amount of space that we've given basically for free for cars, when really we need to be prioritizing people in our city, not just cars. I'm really excited that there are more apartment buildings going in for workforce housing in our city. I really would hope that we could start focusing on density here. We're a small town, but that is still an issue. If you're living in an apartment on the very edge of town, that means everyone that lives in those apartments has to have a vehicle. Vehicles are really expensive. So it's an economic issue for the city, and it's an economic issue for the people that live here. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
Other members who'd like to address the council? All right, hearing none, we are going to move on to general visitor comments. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council on any matter whatsoever? Hearing none, we will move on to the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins with a memo on page 11 and concludes with the resolution that begins on page 56 of the packet. Wow, I'm going to try to sum up some of this because it's a very long consent agenda today. The resolution approving the consent agenda includes the following purchases in excess of $25,000: St. Croix Recreation Fun Playground, for a Steelworks Square shelter at Hallett Park. These are all outlined in the packet, so I'm not going to read them entirety. Hawkins for caustic soda, PWT Chemicals for anti-scalant, Graymount for high calcium quicklime, Polydyne for pretreatment polymer, Polydyne for biosolids polymer, Hawkins for ferric chloride. The St. Peter Herald is hereby designated as the official newspaper for the city of St. Peter during the year 2024. The following institutions are designated as the official depositories of the city of St. Peter, with limits for deposit established at levels indicated for year 2024. That's First National Bank, Pioneer Bank, Citizens Community Bank, Hometown Bank. They all have a limit of $13 million. Councilmember Pettis will serve as Mayor Pro Tem in the absence of Mayor Noel for the period January 1st through December 31st, 2024. The following appointments, city official appointments, are approved for the calendar year 2024. City Attorney James W. Brandt, Assistant City Attorney Stephen D. Winkler, City Engineer Jeffrey Domaris of Bolton and Mank, Inc. Finance Director Sally Vogel and Accountant Brenda Isley are authorized to initiate and receive automated clearinghouse and electronic fund transactions on behalf of the City of St. Peter. The following rules, which I will not read in their entirety, are printed on pages 57 through 58, and I think one bullet point on the top of page 59 of the packet. Those are rules and procedures that govern the operation of the City of St. Peter's Council. The City Council Code of Conduct, which was adopted on September 25th, 2023, is hereby reaffirmed. Council members are assigned to the following advisory board and liaison assignments effective January 1st, 2024. Those are printed on page 59 of the packet. The following employee appointments are approved at the wages indicated: Wanda Foss, Haley Pitch, and Annika Larson as part-time building supervisors, all at a wage of $14.88 an hour. The following individuals are appointed as election judges. I would love to read all of those names because they really deserve our thanks, but I'm going to, for the sake of time, encourage everybody to read the packet and thank an election judge when they meet them. The following license applications are approved contingent upon payment of the licensing fee in compliance with all conditions outlined in City Code. Kareem Inc. And Family Dollar, both tobacco licenses, for January 9th, 2024 through the 31st of December, 2024. The City of St. Peter elects not to waive liability coverage limits through the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, as well as the schedule of disbursements for December 7th, 2023 through December 27th, 2023, and December 28th, 2023 through January 3rd, 2024. Are there any questions or discussion about any item that's on the consent agenda? Brad?
So Todd, if you could just explain what number 11, the not waiving liability coverage limits?
Under
so that
Minnesota
people-
statute, cities have certain limits by which they cannot be sued more than. And so the League of Minnesota Cities offers an option for us to waive those limits and then expand our coverage so that you can be sued for more than is allowed under state statute. Some cities choose to do this for lots of different reasons, which we could certainly talk about for a while longer if you wanted, but generally that's what it is. This is the standard that you've had in place for 26 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We have no items of unfinished business before us tonight. We will move on to new business. The first item of new business is the adoption of a resolution accepting the 2022 Clark Street Extension Project, and that begins with the memo that starts on page 61 of the packet.
Mayor members, Pete can't be here tonight, but if you have a very technical question, your city engineer, Jeff Domris, is here to answer that. But in general, this is providing for final payment and really closing out the Clark Street project, what we have termed during council meetings and workshops as the Clark Street Extension Project. And so this is really for that last block from east to west on Clark Street that you've seen the development with the additional apartment of Traverse Green Apartment Number 2. The contractor's bid originally was $591,000 or so, and the total cost based on the units was approximately $585,000. The remaining sum is about $14,600. This would close out the project and authorize final payment to GM Contracting. Jeff, they've completed everything as desired and everything's in good shape there.
Yes, that's the recommendation then to go ahead and finally accept the project, so.
Jeff, is there anything else that I missed that we should make sure the council knows?
Did a good job. It's basically, it's 575 feet of street, curb and gutter, sidewalk. We added sidewalk along the north side, which is, that's what we've been doing is carrying it through, and then also storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water main. So, I mean, you look at that number and the coincidence, 575 feet of roadway and about $500 and some odd thousand in projects, it almost makes you wonder. It's about $1,000 per linear foot. Just to give you a perspective, I guess. It's not cheap.
It's also important to note that this is getting paid for really from two primary sources, one of which is the property directly north of this area as a part of the development agreement with the developers, Traverse Green Apartments. They're required to pay 50% of this as a part of an assessment, and again, that's embedded in their development agreement. And of course, the rest of the property south of this will be assessed that, which you own. And so as that develops into the future, future developers will help pay the cost of this. The resolution is included in your packet on page 62.
Questions for Todd or for Jeff? Hearing none, the resolution authorizing final payment for the 2022 Clark Street Extension improvements is on page 62. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We will move on to the adoption of a resolution authorizing purchase of a playground equipment for Hallett Park to be reimbursed by Apex Construction Group.
Normally, Mayor and members, this would not have to come before you, but I thought it was prudent that it did, since this is an expense that you're bearing that will be reimbursed by the developer according to the development agreement with the folks, Apex, who's developing Capital Lofts. This playground has been one that really is selected through the Parks and Recreation Group Committee, and we had a number of public offerings for people to comment, and I know a couple people in the audience happened to come by at Hy-Vee and a couple other places. It was really nice. And so this is really a nature-based park system, if I can say that, with playground equipment and other things. On page 64, you'll see a map that outlines where things are occurring, how it's being put together. Again, ultimately, this is funded through APX Construction Group as a part of the development agreement and TIP that you have in place for development of this area. The total cost of this is approximately $59,000, as you see within your packet. The resolution's on page 65.
Questions for Todd? Carrie?
On the map, there's a big X. Is that something that was taken out of the plan?
Councilmember Johnson, I'll have to get back to you on that. If I recall right, and so we'll get back to you if you don't mind, but if I recall right, I believe that that is a location where a tree was put in not quite the right spot and is going to hinder that pedestrian area and that sidewalk, so it might be one that has to be moved.
Sure.
But it is not a removal of something. It just might not quite be in the right spot as it was really planted. Is that enough, or do you want me to respond or send you an email?
No, that's enough.
Yeah,
It's
nothing's
just-
been.
I was curious.
Yeah, nothing's been taken out of the plan.
I'll just say I'm really excited about this park. It's going to be unique in to other parks that we have in town, and I think that's one of the strengths of our park system is that there's a little bit of something for everyone. We don't have a lot of cookie cutter parks in town, and so thanks to the park board for their work on this, and of course to Apex for funding. There's no further comments. The resolution for purchase of nature-based playground equipment for Hallett Park is on page 65 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Knoll.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ring.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution authorizing submission of a transportation alternatives grant application.
Members, this starts in your packet on page 66. Just a couple things that I'd like to point out that maybe your previous speakers did not point out. The funding lists included in here on page 66 I think are correct. And again, these are requests. This is a request for grant funding. This doesn't make it happen. We sure have high hopes, and we'll continue to push and lobby for that. But it does mean that the city has to provide a match should funding be approved or partial funding be approved for this. I would also mention that every grant that the city applies for does not necessarily come in front of the city council. It's really those that require some type of city council action. And in this instance, it's my understanding that a city council resolution in support of the application is required through DOT for this particular grant application. Happy to talk about it more if you want. Again, the information that you see included on page 68 at this point is conceptual. This isn't the final, but is conceptual, and we have to have something put together for cost estimates and to start the grant application process. On page 69, you'll see a map that shows that entire area. I do want to mention, and I think it's really important to mention, that this is something that the city council is really reaching out, and that this part of the roadway is not a city street. This is county state aid highway. And so we continue to try and work with Nicollet County. And I might suggest that for folks that are very interested in seeing this go forward, that some communication with the Nicollet County administration and board of commissioners may be helpful in moving this forward. Essentially, this is the area where the trail is widening of the shoulder, not a trail off the roadway as you see in the area that abuts your roadway that we share in this area. So anyway, I thought that would be important to point out. And then the resolution starts on page 70.
Questions or comments? Brad and then Daryl.
Just a quick question on the 3rd Street one. I'm assuming besides the bump outs and such, it's also the study is going to include basically study on traffic controls as well, such as whether we put in 4-way stops and stuff beyond just the curbs. That would be part of the study.
If I can, I'll let Jeff speak to that. My recollection is that that is true, other than for the intersection at Broadway, which we anticipate for a separate study, Councilmember DeVos. Jeff, can you shed some light on that one for us? About whether study of the intersections is included as a part of this for transportation and...
I'm talking about like the intersections such as like at Mulberry and 3rd, Park Row and 3rd, that traffic control at those would be part of it.
Yeah, it's a good question, but as part of the transportation alternatives grant application, that study of that isn't part of that, the physical application. But if we do see that there's a need for that sort of thing, that's something that can happen afterwards if we are successful in receiving the grant.
And
So-
if I could, members, from a staff perspective, and we've discussed this, I think, with council previously, we anticipate a separate study for what you've all indicated, and that we see is a more challenging intersection at the intersection of 3rd and Broadway. And so that would not be part of this. Any change in that intersection or funding for that intersection would have to be applied for separately. And we anticipate that coming in the aftermath of a study.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I'd just like to say going forward, as we look at this, hopefully we're successful in getting the grant. So look forward at this project. I'd like to look at traffic controls at the intersection, not at Broadway, obviously, because that's something different. But the ones the ones prior to that, I think, is something that we really need to take a look at. Particularly, like, for example, we're putting another establishment in where the fire station was, which will increase traffic there. It's already a busy area, so.
Daryl?
This is basically full reconstruction of 3rd Street then, sewer, water, storm sewer, everything, curb and gutter? That's what it looks
Yes,
like at least.
that is correct, yep.
Looks like you're narrowing 40-foot face-to-face for curb and gutter. Are you still talking about parallel parking along the whole route, or looking at taking off parking on here?
I'm
Because
trying to think.
right now the new curb and gutter line is basically the outside edge of the parking on there.
Right. Yeah, the roadway, that's a good question. Right now, the roadway is well over 40 feet wide. Did you see somewhere that said 40 feet?
It says 40-foot face-to-face on
Okay.
in your diagram, yes.
Okay, so then that would allow parking along both sides.
So you're still going to be allowing parking on both sides?
There
not
would
taking
still be.
Parking off
Yes.
this street?
Yes.
Just putting in wider boulevards, then I would imagine, between the sidewalk and the curb and gutter?
That's correct, yep. And then putting out the little islands, or I call them the bull noses at the intersections, to basically reduce the distance that pedestrians have to physically cross the roadway. There's safety in there.
And with the trail on County Road 74, that would just be within the county's right-of-way? We won't be looking at taking that over as a street, correct?
Not as a part of this, that's correct.
Because that is a county road, it's not a county stated highway, so that would go onto our MSA system 100% if that were to be turned back to us. That would be in addition to the 20% we currently receive.
Well, and part of the discussion, Councilmember Pettis, that we've had before with them is that we would expect that they do something more to upgrade that roadway before a turn back occurred. And so we're really viewing this in some respects as potentially an interim solution to that, because we see an important need in getting that pedestrian traffic off that roadway.
Thank you.
Yeah. As somebody who lives off of Sunrise and drives it every day and sees many, many pedestrians, but especially kids, lots and lots of kids who live in the off of Lloyd Lane, take that stretch of road to get to sports practices and school. I'm really grateful to city staff and to the county for working together to try to make this situation better. It really we haven't had a tragedy there yet, and I don't want one in St. Peter, and I think this will go a long way to improve pedestrian safety for bicyclists, and just especially all the kids I see all summer long, all year long, really. Lots of kids traveling on that road. So anyone else have any comments or questions on this? Hearing no further discussion, the resolution authorizing transportation alternatives solicitation funding application is on pages 70 and 71 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Rath?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember DeHouse?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. The resolution is approved. Thanks again, Jeff. We are going to move on to adoption of a resolution approving a waiver of subdivision request. And Ben is here to talk to us about that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Noel and members of the council. Jeffrey Weideman is the applicant and owner of the property at 418 West Chatham Street. He's in the process of purchasing a portion of the neighboring rear property at 214 North 4th. So Mr. Weiderman is requesting approval from the city to both split and combine the rear portion at 214. It was about 7,000 square feet with this area behind his house. Based on this proposed lot split, the city attorney is advised following City Code Chapter 44, specifically Section 54. Therefore, Whiteman has requested a waiver from the city's subdivision plating requirements. This is for 3 or fewer parcels, and we can accept a survey in lieu of a plat. So the property at 214 North 4th is currently very deep and very narrow. This is compared to a standard single-family lot. And Whiteman's lot is especially shallow. This is at 418, and wide compared to a single-family lot. The proposed lot split and combination would increase Whiteman's lot to a more standard lot depth of around 141 feet. So the Planning Commission did look at this at their November meeting and recommended approval. Attached on the next 2 pages is a map and a survey. The survey is what we've been waiting for over the last month, which came in, and that's the second attachment, and then the resolution is on page 76.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ben or any members of the commission who'd like to comment on this resolution? Brad?
Yeah, it passed easily the commission. It's a really straightforward request, and it doesn't make any odd-shaped lots out of it. It seems very, very straightforward transaction.
Any questions? All right, hearing no further discussion, the resolution approving lot split / combination and waiver of subdivision plat requirements for the properties located at 418 West Chatham Street and 214 North 4th Street is on pages 76 and 77 of the packet. Is there a motion?
Question, Mayor?
Yes.
One question. We're not creating a non-conforming lot on 214, are we?
No, this would, yeah, they both are conforming with the lot size.
So the one what's left on 214 is still a
Correct.
conforming lot. We won't be creating an illegal non-conformity.
No, correct.
Thank you.
Yep, good question. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ring?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Oh, aye, sorry. Where's Ed?
We are going in a different direction. It's okay. Takes a couple months. It's okay.
Thank you, I'm new here.
Just sworn in tonight.
It's your first meeting.
All right, the resolution is approved. Thank you very much, Ben. Next up, adoption of a resolution creating a full-time human resources generalist position.
Mayor, members of City Council has asked for a modification to the city organizational structure by creating a position of this type. Staff has responded with the proposed job description that's included in your packet. You had a really good opportunity at your workshop to talk about this in a lot more detail, and I'm happy to provide additional information tonight if you would like. But generally, this would be a human resource generalist that would provide support to my office, department heads, and others within the organization, and really key in on some of the human resource efforts that we have, including recruitment, job descriptions, contracts, a number of different things that you see outlined within the job description that's included in your packet. The resolution is available for your review. Again, I'm happy to speak more to it if you would like, but again, I think you had a really robust discussion at your last meeting about this. The resolution is included on page 83.
Questions for Todd? Carrie?
I just have a comment before the vote. I intend to abstain during the roll call vote, and I wrote something out so I could just be clear and transparent about what I mean by that. Given that this position falls within my professional domain in HR, I wish to affirm that although I currently have no plans to submit an application, I want to refrain from influencing the establishment of this position in the event that I would apply in the future.
Thank you, Carrie. Any other questions or comments? We've had a lot of discussion about this. The only thing I think that I didn't have a chance to express in those conversations is our hospital has a really excellent human resources department, and if there were opportunities for whoever comes into this position to to have that, because it's kind of a standalone position. It's going to be the only one in the organization. If there are opportunities for professional development or mentorship or things like that, I hope that those opportunities would, we could help make those connections with the hospital. All right, on that note, the resolution creating a human resources generalist position and adopting the position description is on page 83 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Abstain?
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Moving on, our next item of new business is the adoption of a resolution approving council out-of-state travel.
Mayor and members, this is on page 84, and this is something that is required according to state statute and your own policies for out-of-state travel for elected officials. Traditionally, the council has sent a couple or maybe 3 elected officials to the APPA, which is the American Public Power Association legislative rally in Washington, D.C. That rally in the 2024 year is generally from February 26th to the 28th. It provides really a wonderful opportunity from staff's perspective for elected officials not only to meet with staff members in Washington, but elected officials in Washington and certainly your peers throughout the Minnesota delegation and SIMPA, where you buy all your electricity from. And I won't speak to it too much of council members who've been there in the past. You have 2 members that are here today, I believe, that have been to the APPA rally before. They can speak to that. My goal here is to make sure that you know that if you are sending somebody, that you do have to pass a resolution providing approval for that under state statute and under your policy. The council spoke about this and discussed this, and everyone checked their calendars at the last workshop about who could go, who wanted to go, maybe whose turn was next, those types of things, and I thought you had a great discussion about that. And the resolution that's included in your packet on page 86, I believe, reflects that discussion. So, Madam Mayor, that's all I have, unless someone has a question of me.
Yeah, questions for Todd or anybody who's been there before would like to address the value of this for St. Peter?
First question of process. So since I'm part of this travel request, is it something I should abstain from the vote on? Okay.
It's not a conflict of interest. in
Okay,
any way.
I wasn't sure how that
Yep.
fit under it. I will just say, yes, I went 2 years ago. I think it's incredibly valuable. Councilmember Ramp also went last year. Just being able to talk to our own elected officials out there, talk directly to them, as well as talk to our power provider, make the connections there, understand their process, explain where we're coming from in our processes. It's such a great opportunity to make connections with also our other SIMPA members. I really value the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to going. So.
Thanks, Brad. Other questions or comments?
And if I didn't say it out loud from a staff perspective, we think it's great that elected officials go. It's one thing to send Pete or send I, and we're just kind of hired hands sometimes in these exchanges. So elected to elected discussion has value. And so we really appreciate the time that people commit to do this, because you're taking time out of your lives to make this happen. And so we hope that it's a worthwhile experience for you. And we know, and I think we can articulate very clearly, that there's a benefit in policy and resources after these kinds of discussions. So.
Thanks, Todd. All right, if there's nothing further, the resolution authorizing elected official travel is on page 86 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, the adoption of a resolution adopting the 2024 municipal fee schedule.
So, Mayor and members, in general, there are not lots of changes to this fee schedule from 2023, but let me highlight a couple. First of which is the area around 115, the fees listed in 115 related to excavation fees. We've really done 2 things, tried to reduce that significantly based on the council's recommendation and suggestion in an effort to try and encourage additional fiber optic infrastructure development within the community. And so we changed that significantly, and I believe we've changed that in an appropriate way. I would also mention that we've expanded, for lack of a better way to describe it, we've expanded the coverage of that. So as an example, where you might have had to have a permit for each block previously, now it's based on project. So as I mentioned in the memo, and forgive me if I don't use the exact same numbers, but generally if I was an excavator and I came in and was going to do 10 blocks of work, if I had all of that bundled together in one map and one application, that would be one application, and it would be subject to the fee once. If I came back and did another 10 blocks, and that was all bundled together with the proper documentation, the mapping, all of that kind of stuff, that would be a second. However, if I had come in at the beginning and had one set of plans for 20 blocks, that would be one application rather than two. And so our goal is to try and streamline the process, but also encourage companies that are doing this development to do it in a more organized way and less haphazard block by block way. And so I think we do that as a part of this and meet those two goals. And so there are a couple other changes that relate to that, like the lineal feet and a number of other things that we've excluded for this time. And at least from a staff perspective, we're a little bit concerned, but I think it's worth an experiment to see what happens. And then we'll report back at that fall or in the winter, if winter ever comes in 2025, and talk about how many permits and what we saw and what worked and what didn't work. And I'm sure you'll hear from your residents what works and what doesn't work in relation to making sure that as contractors come in, they're doing repairs and restoration appropriately as well. The second one that I'd like to mention in a very different way is that the council's indicated very clearly that you believe that we should not in the future have dog and cat licensure. This is not eliminating the requirement for appropriate vaccination. This is not having dog or cat licensure. And so that's really, from my perspective, a couple of step process in that you have a fee for that, which it lists the fee as $0 in this fee schedule. But you have to pass an ordinance. Your ordinance says you got to do this. And so you have some certain publication things that you have to do to be able to change an ordinance. So my goal will be is that, and for you, if you're willing, is to approve this related, and then the fee would be $0. We take down names and numbers and email addresses of folks that might come in to get their license for their animals, which we won't have a lot until we get into March or April. My hope is that we'll have a draft of the ordinance modification to you within the next week or two for you to review, and then we go through the normal publication process before it can come back to you at a council meeting for action. And then that would clean this up, meaning that there would no longer be a requirement for a license. But this action tonight means that, well, technically someone would still have to have a license. They don't have to pay anything for that license for their dog or their cat. There's a lot of stuff in here, and again, we don't have a lot of modifications this go around. We will likely have some more modifications next year. Next year is the year in the cycle where things bump related to what is attributable to staff time, and about every 3 years or so you have kind of an intermediary bump as wages and costs and employee costs have gone up in some of these areas that fully impact that. I would also like to point out that this is not a full list of every fee that you could possibly charge. So as an example, in the rec department, I think we are providing fencing again this year. You won't see that fencing fee in here. The Director of Recreational User Services has the ability and has had the authority to set fees of that type largely in the past. Lastly, I'll mention that this does incorporate at the very end, forgive me for not remembering the number, but I think it's 119 or 120 or 121. We list out in here your assessment fees for streets, water, and wastewater. We had long talked at the time that you modified your assessment policy that this would be included on a regular basis as a part of your fee policy. You discussed the modification to this at your workshop, and what you see included in here is based on that discussion and the recommendation from staff for a small modification to the amount based on where we see costs for that kind of work going. Whew. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'll try and be quiet, but answer any questions that staff or our council might have.
Thank you, Todd. Questions for Todd? Brad?
It's on the underground utility work, and I know one of the concerns previously raised was there was also a fee per linear, foot. Mm-hmm. Is that being, you said not all the fees were in here, but was that fee per linear foot removed, or is that still in the?
No. So that would have been removed.
That
I'm
was
sorry
removed
if I
as well.
misspoke.
Okay.
That would have been removed, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Okay,
Yep.
And then I would just have a question for Councilmember Rampt. Is this fee schedule similar to what you're seeing in other communities that you're familiar with?
Yeah, there's some other communities that operate on a very metro outlook, but they're built out and They've got very strict per foot fees, but when we take a look at similar sized cities doing similar type work, this is more on par with what they're being charged. So definitely, if there's a good set of plans and you hand off in your one application and it's $55, that's reasonable. But the old fee schedule for that would have been astronomical, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So hopefully this is enough within the next, I would say, 2 years. Most of the providers that have looked at what they're building next year, they've already got it figured out and designed and planned and walked out and staked. So hopefully within the next year or two, this helps us out, or at least alleviates that one
Sure.
hurdle.
Thank you. And this doesn't, I was just gonna say, just to follow up for Todd, the contractors would still be required to provide a security bond for any work, going on.
Additional questions, comments? All right, the resolution adopting 2024 municipal fee schedule appears on pages 89 through 104 on the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving a 2024 equipment certificate purchase of a fire truck.
Mayor, members, you had the opportunity to discuss that at your last workshop. Staff provided you some information in a report from your fire chief related to this. We've talked for a long time of the need to get rid of your 1960-ish or 60s era snorkel and ladder truck. This 2013 Rosenbauer T-Rex aerial truck does that with a purchase from the city of Hastings. Hastings is no longer using it. They cannot provide the personnel to make it go. At the original purchase, this was over $1 million truck, and today this is probably in excess of a $2 million truck. And so we are able under state statute to purchase from the city of Hastings on a direct purchase without a bid process, and they're able to sell that way. As we mentioned at your workshop last week, the council there was discussing this and they have approved the sale, and I've received a bill of sale. So if the council approves it tonight, you would purchase the truck for $650,000. I would expect about another $30,000 for striping and upgrade the radio system to what our radio system is. The one in our current truck is not the upgrade version. We haven't upgraded that radio because, anyway, that's a 1960 version truck. So we hadn't, and there still was a radio in there. I think I told you they were using portables. I think effectively they're using portables, but there was a radio in there, but it is not at the standard that you have currently for radios. I know Councilmember Ramp asked that question. Again, happy to show you some pictures. We really believe this is a good deal. This comes to you not only because of the amount of money that it is, but also because this would be funded by a future equipment certificate to make all of this go. By the way, this is about 30-ish, 20-ish, 50-ish $1,000 less than we had kind of plugged into that equipment certificate amount. So I want to be clear about that. You did have a team from the fire department that went over to take a look at it and see it in operation and try out a few things, and they came back happy and believing that it's an appropriate purchase. And I'm sorry some of these are sideways, but it is a real truck, it's from a real place, and it works really well compared to what you have currently. And so the recommendation is that you approve the resolution that's on page, I think it's 110.
Questions or comments? Brad?
Quick question for Councilmember Pettis. So will kindergartners and their parents get to go up in the bucket when they get tours like they currently do?
I would defer that to the fire chief. They would
Same.
have to have appropriate personal protective equipment to do that. But it is have a basket on it, so it would be possible that would be a fire chief's decision.
I just had a lot of fun several years ago when I got to go.
The nice thing about this one, council member is if you go up there and we stick you up there, you can climb down the ladder.
There had been concern that it would go up and we couldn't get it back down
Just
readily.
remember, there's always the ladder option again. And I've been told it's quite the climb.
Ben?
The only thing I would add on this, I'm a ex-firefighter, city of Wabasha, and we picked up our ladder truck pretty much in the similar fashion where we purchased a surplus truck from the city of Eagan. They were closing down an apartment. And to a large city, a $2 million fire truck really isn't that big of a deal, but for us to be able to have this windfall and pick up a $2 million truck for $650,000, 30 grand worth of upgrades, it's a phenomenal deal. And I feel going this route, we're being good stewards to our taxpayers, so. And it's a much needed upgrade.
Agreed. Any other questions, comments? Thank you to our neighbors in Hastings. It's a great opportunity for us. The resolution approving 2024 equipment certificate purchase of a used aerial fire truck is on page 110 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. Whoever was the second, I'll trust Barbara to figure that out. All those in, call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Our last item of new business tonight is the adoption of a resolution approving an update to the city administrator contract.
Mayor members, Jim Brandt, your city attorney, handles this work for you, so I defer to Jim.
Thank you. We've gone through this several times in the workshop, and we've worked through the process. The council has reviewed it in the second year of what's called a 360 evaluation, which basically was a very oral, written thing, essay type thing, rather than a grade type process. Also, it incorporated the people that worked directly with Todd and got their information. And based on that, the council was happy, essentially happy with what Todd's done. We've listed in my memo a number of things that the cities can be proud of themselves for this year. Like the park maintenance for the school district, I think, is a real plus. Relationships we've got with Gustavus, St. Peter School District, and Regional Treatment Center, Nickel County Better. Continue to work on Traverse Green. We were able to purchase the school's property for the balance of Traverse Green, so we can continue to develop that. We've successfully completed the roundabout at St. Julian's. I think that one of the biggest things right now is we got a new fire hall. It's up and going. So I think at the end of the day, the council is very happy with this process. Todd was willing to accept the offer of council to stay with the same as non-union employees at 4%. In reviewing this, Todd and I discussed, Todd's always liked to have a couple years to work with new council members as they come in to allow him to demonstrate his ability so he doesn't just get kicked to the curb right away. So we talked about we feel it would be appropriate to ask him to extend his contract to 27, so another 2 years. Otherwise, the current one would run out in 25. I think it's appropriate. I think he's done a good job. Council's been happy with him, so I would strongly recommend that that part be accepted. Stand for any questions the mayor and council has.
Questions for Jim? Carrie?
So with the contract extension, do we still evaluate?
Oh, you-
Evaluate each year and compensation, correct?
Yes, you evaluate every year. You evaluate compensation every year. The extension is to keep him here another couple of years. It works better for us is that we do have him under control.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the fact that he gets an opportunity to show new council members his ability, rather than just, get cut out without having an opportunity to demonstrate what he can do.
That makes sense. And I would just add that we also, City Attorney Brandt always provides us with data in the city administrator marketplace in cities of our similar size, and it really helps us compare. And I think the last few years were catch-up years, and Yeah, we just, it's really nice to have that information
Sure.
where we can evaluate that every year. So I really like the new process, and we are just very lucky to have Todd as our city administrator. So much to be proud of this year.
Brad?
Yeah, it was on Carrie with the clarification on the contract going forward. It's the 4% is for this year, if people are wondering, and then it's the default $500 each year increase,
Yes, right.
unless the council takes action, as we typically do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing nothing further, the resolution modifying the city administrator's employment contract is on page 121 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion then to second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ram?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember DeBoss?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. The resolution is approved.
Thank you, Mayor members. If I can, just quick.
Yeah.
It really continues to be an honor to serve in St. Peter. Things work here that do not work in other places, and I know you hear that from other elected officials. It's true. And so thank you for that. And again, it's great to work with the council and the community, and you do have a fantastic staff here that makes things go. That's why things happen here that don't work other places. So thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks for all you do, Todd. It's appreciated. We're going to move on to the mayor's report. You've all heard me talk enough tonight, so I'll limit my report to saying welcome to our new member, Josh Weisenfeld, and really look forward to working with you, and congratulations on your election.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move forward.
Move on to reports of council members. Is there any council member who'd like to make a report at this time? All right, city administrator reports.
I just would like to report, Madam Mayor, that non-emergency offices of the city will be closed on Martin Luther King Day, and that will require then, or you do have a modification to your meeting schedule, so please watch for that as well. The only other one that I'd mention is for those of you that now are appointed and serve on MRVT, we have a meeting tomorrow. They are in St. Peter this year, as you know. They are actually at City Hall. I misspoke and said they're actually at City Hall, in the basement at City Hall. And so please attend if you're able, and let us know if you can't attend. And as you know, we share MRVT with LeSueur, and so last year we were there, this year we are here, so hopefully it'll be a little bit more convenient. Madam Mayor, that's all I have for you.
All right. Oh, did you already say Martin Luther King Jr.
Very
holiday
quickly,
closure?
yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, non-emergency offices will be closed that day, and it will require, again, a change in your meeting schedule.
All right. If there's nothing further, how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
How was it, Josh? Was it everything you dreamed?
Tuesday. I will not be here that Tuesday.